Now, have you ever thought that the Abortion Act in Britain devalues people with disabilities? Well, that's the view of Laurence Clark, who's a comedian with cerebral palsy. He and his partner, who also has cerebral palsy, are expecting their first child next month. They chose not to have any prenatal tests because there would be no point. They both feel strongly that it's wrong to terminate a pregnancy on the grounds of disability. But the Abortion Act allows terminations right up to the moment of birth if the fetus has a severe impairment, whereas other abortions are limited to 24 weeks. Here's Lawrence's special report for Newsnight on a subject which is clearly deep in his thoughts as he prepares for fatherhood.
Hi, I'm Laurence and I'm a comedian. You can probably tell by my voice that I'm different to you. People's misconceptions about disability really get on my nerves. When we got to the airport, a similar thing happened. We discovered that we'd forgotten my wife Adele's contraceptive pill. Now, as you can imagine, this would have put a big downer on our honeymoon. But the chemist we went to refused to serve us. They said, sorry, we're not a special disability chemist. Now what the fuck is a disability chemist? Have you ever seen one? No, me neither. So, now we're having a baby.
Could be limbs that I'm feeling here.
My wife, Adele, and I don't care how our baby turns out. But disabled people face discrimination every day. In fact, it starts even before we're born, with the Abortion Act. I've come to London to ask a few experts why the Act is so unequal. The legal deadline for an abortion is 24 weeks. But if the fetus is impaired, abortions are allowed right up to birth.
I think for many disabled people, the view that a fetus with an impairment, albeit a severe impairment, is a fetus which can be aborted, can be terminated, even if it's otherwise viable at 30, 35 weeks, is one which is fundamentally discriminatory. It's one which appears to devalue their lives.
What do you think are the chances of a change in the law?
The issues are, of course, not only about disabled people's rights, although they are also about disabled people's rights. They are about development of medical technology. They are about the long-standing debates about abortion generally and a woman's right to choose. And so I think it's an issue which is on the agenda, but not one which lends itself to an easy answer.
I'm concerned at how the Act defines a serious impairment. Bill Albert, from the British Council of Disabled People, shares my concerns.
It doesn't define a serious impairment. A serious impairment is defined by clinicians together, and sometimes not, well, together with the family. So that's why you had this issue about cleft lip and palate, because that was defined as serious by that particular clinician. And the problem is, of course, that if you don't have that, then you have a list of what's serious, right? So then and that's possibly even worse.
During the speech, Tony made us a number of promises. Here's the one that gets me.
And we will do more. We will give the disabled the civil rights that the Tories have denied them. Nobody should be excluded from this age of achievement.
You know what? We're still fighting for our civil rights. after my birth, my mother was told that I'd have severe learning difficulties, incontinence and no control over my muscles. They said I'd be a vegetable. They were wrong on every count. Doctors are trained to always give the worst case scenario in these cases. And yet, according to the current law, decisions on late abortions are made on such prognoses. So, what are you doing here, Anya?
Oh, this is copperfoil tape, right? This is the glass. What should we use? An orange one. Yeah. Orange piece of glass, right?
The BMJ states that 92% of women who test positive for Down syndrome have a termination. Anya Souza is a visual artist with Down syndrome who doesn't like being ignored. Last year, she protested at a medical conference. What was it about?
Testing on Down syndrome is the answer.
What did you say?
Well, I can't get rid of my Down syndrome is one thing, and can't get rid of my happiness either. Yeah.
Do you think mothers should be able to abort babies with Down syndrome just because they have Down syndrome?
No, I don't think so, no. No.
That's wrong.
It's wrong. Look at me now. 42. And you can see what I can do. There's creativity in Down syndrome people.
Unfortunately, Anya's outlook hasn't changed medical practice. The government first offered screening to women over 40, then 35, but soon it will be available to every woman. But if you can't change the law, can you change attitudes? You'd like to think there'd be a balance of information given by doctors, but both my wife and I encountered a distinct lack of knowledge around our impairment.
Well, it's lovely to see you both again. Laurence, you well? And
Yes.
Yeah, smashing, yeah.
Right then, so how many weeks are you now?
Staff like Jackie have been great, a real support during the pregnancy. Others have been appallingly tactless.
The first doctor we saw was a woman doctor, and she was the one who was very negative and raised the issue that she felt we were irresponsible.
I think really in the attitude of the staff mostly.
Yeah, I mean, it was one particular staff member actually referred to Laurence as a chair.
Historically, discrimination has been based on biological difference, whether that be in terms of gender, race, age or impairment. Whilst the rest of these are now recognised as equality issues, I believe impairment is still viewed by the medical profession as undesirable.
The abortion law, like lots of medicine, is based on the medical model of disability, which locates the problem in the disabled person. Whereas disabled people themselves have described disability in terms of the social model, which locates disability in society. So the message that goes out is that the disabled person is the problem. And so you address the problem by getting rid of the person.
I think what disability groups have not addressed is the parallel with ordinary healthcare. That to treat disease, to restore hearing, to restore sight, to restore mobility is not just an issue about people with permanent disabilities. It is a general health issue. And nobody thinks that when our hospitals do that, this constitutes a criticism of those people whose hearing or sight or mobility cannot be restored.
It felt like they've all been...
My friend and colleague Ruth has a hearing impairment. She was criticised for refusing antenatal screening.
The guy was looking through my medical notes and then he said, you've got an hereditary impairment in your family. Does deafness go through your family? And I said, yeah. And he went, well, I don't think you should continue with this pregnancy. And I was just like, what? I never expected that kind of reaction at all because I was just excited about being pregnant. Yeah. And he said then in front of everyone, I think you'd be irresponsible to continue with this pregnancy and you should have it aborted.
You came to have, unfortunately, this view is shared by other medical professionals, including Britain's most eminent scientists.
I think for myself, I would say that if we can select children who are not going to be severely disadvantaged, then we should do so. But I think it has to be done by voluntary choice. And a number of disabled groups are very, very concerned that their kind will somehow be wiped out, and they feel very angry about this. So we have cases, for example, of a couple who deliberately had a deaf baby because they were deaf, and we see more and more of this coming at the moment. I disagree with them. I don't think one ought to deliberately bring a clearly disadvantaged child into the world. I do not believe that everything is relative.
My first son, Alex, who I told should have an abortion with him, he hasn't had any hearing impairment at all. Harriet, my second one, ironically, she has got the hearing impairment and genetically has been continued to her, and she does wear a hearing aid. And Hermione, my last one, no, there's been no hearing impairment as far as we know. So, but even if there was for the other two, Harriet and the other two, we all live life to its full.
Impairment is a natural part of life. In my view, eradicating the impaired fetus will not get rid of disability. As long as we have wars, accidents, disease and ageing, there will always be disabled people. I'd like our child to grow up in a world where disabled people's lives are valued as equal. Sadly, I think we're a long way from that.
That report by Laurence Clark, and you can see more of Sir John Silson, who featured in Laurence's report in a BBC4 interview with Mark Lawson on the 15th of November. The Nobel Prize winner talks more about his work on genetics and human DNA and its implications for society. More on our top story, reports